Okay, so today is Wednesday, the 12th of August, and we'll be talking about the third week of the program. Forgive my typo. It says week 2 up there. It should say week 3. On the business side, you guys would have started looking at creating your strategic plan. And on the health side, you would have started looking at strategy for eating on the go. So welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you guys are here. I hope you've had an amazing week. I want to start with this. I have received a ton of feedback on the sound coming from the videos. I get it. I've heard you. It's time consuming to update all of those videos, but I have everything up through next week's stuff. With my videos, the volume bumped up from 100% to 400%. I heard your pleas for changing the volume, and I have adjusted it. So I'd like your feedback as whether you're in week 3 or moving into week 4, if you would just give me feedback on the sound, that would be great. I don't think it's ever gonna match the sound of Roxanne's first video in each section, because those are, the volume on those is really high, but it should match everything else. So that
I'm redoing those videos.
Are you? I like
oh, maybe not. We'll talk later.
Those videos, Roxanne, with all the stuff flying in. All right, so let's get, go ahead, Neely.
Kristen said she's waiting in the waiting room.
Oh, crap. Thank you. I know I'm trying to do 12 things here. Hold on one second. Let me find her. I've got 2 people in the waiting room. Thank you, Neely. Okay, they're in. Oh, one more. All right, Christina, Grace, and Kristen on their way in. Welcome, ladies. Super sorry. I was talking. I can't talk and push buttons at the same time. Sadly. All right, so Roxanne, you want to start us off?
I sure can. Okay, so first of all, quick question. Anyone have any questions on last week, if you finally got caught up or whatever with labels? Is that pretty straightforward?
Pretty straight stuff.
Okay. So today what we're talking about, eating on the go. And I think this is also pretty straightforward. And really the thing out of all the stuff that you read, really all you really need to remember when you walk into a restaurant, which meal are you supposed to be eating? Everyone eats at different times. So some people might be going 3 o'clock, meeting some friends for lunch, or maybe 11 o'clock. Well, that might be snacks for some people. So if you're walking into a restaurant and it's a snack, basically you're going to be eating protein and vegetables, right? So you don't just say, oh, well, since I'm going to go to a restaurant, I'm going to go ahead and eat a whole meal. Depending on which meal you're about to eat, you need to anticipate that before you go into the fast food place or to the restaurant. So of course, if it is, you don't even, like I said, I never open the menu. I kind of know what the menu's going to say, because either I look at it online or I just say, look, worst case scenario, I'm like, do you have chicken? Almost everyone has chicken. I don't even like chicken. Worst case scenario, like, do you have chicken? Do you have vegetables? Okay, great. I'll just go with that. And a big thing about going to restaurants, because I had to do that this weekend, I was across town in a competition, and then my husband wanted me to meet him and some people at Tommy's. And I was still in my workout clothes, and I didn't care. I was like, well, hopefully I won't know anyone there at this place. And I walked in and I was starving, and there was a big thing of bread on the table. The first thing I asked for is bubbling water, because I know if I would have asked for hot tea or coffee to make me full while I'm looking at this bread, it would take a while for them to heat it up. So I was like, hey, can I have bubbly water? And they gave it to me, and I said, I just want a big thing of it. And I sat there and kind of chugged the water to where I had all that bubbles in my stomach, where it took a while, like you're thinking, okay, I'm either going to throw up or something with all the carbonation. But then at that moment, that bread did not look good. And it was then, by then I could order, and the bread was gone, and that was great. So you need to anticipate all those things that are super, that's probably the most important. Now, if it was Saturday, so I could have gone ahead and had some of that bread if I wanted to. I just knew that I like their bread pudding at Tommy's, and I don't eat sweets generally, but I just knew that I was gonna have a couple bites of that bread pudding. So instead of eating the bread in the first part of the meal, I decided to forego that and do it at the end. So that's kind of how I'm still cheating, but I'm still trying to eat protein, vegetables, and then my carb was the bread pudding. So that's kind of how you move it around. Again, it was the weekend, so I could have had pizza and everything if I wanted to. It's just, I'm at a place in my life now where I do that, I feel terrible the next day. It's almost like a food hangover where nothing would get done. So that's why I chose not to do that. So is there any questions that anybody has about eating on the go, or some obstacles with anything else from the first module or the first session to now? Does anybody have questions, obstacles, or anything like that?
I actually had a challenge which I never even thought about this weekend. You know, I am Mexican, in case nobody knew that. And in the Mexican culture, you know, we have birthday celebrations, whatever, baby showers, and they're always a big event. And there's always food there that I'm not supposed to be eating. But one of the things that I had to really, really kind of overcome in a nice way was the Mexican moms and grandmas that are, you're going to hurt my feelings if you don't eat. Or, you know, why are you not eating? What's wrong with you? Are you sick? Are you know, get like all these questions, and it's almost like, you know, you give in and you're like, okay. But it was funny because then Monday, I felt like I did have a hangover. I was like, I was tired. I wasn't motivated. I didn't want to do anything. And I thought, I actually told my husband that Tuesday, I said, I must have had a hangover from the birthday cake, because the birthday cake is what I had. Yeah. And of course, there wasn't one birthday cake. There were two.
Right. Right. So no, yeah. No, that's true. And you're going to, as time goes on, like, as people start seeing that your lifestyle is changing, they're going to get used to it, because the opposite happens to me. I love cake. I love stuff just like everyone else does. And if for some reason I'm like, oh, I don't have much to do tomorrow, I will have some cake. When I grab the cake, I get the opposite reaction. What? You're going to eat that? Oh my gosh. So once people know what your lifestyle is, they are going to then adapt to it. And if you change, whether for the good or for the bad, there is going to be a little bit of a distraction, or people are going to be not on board with it at first. But once they see that's your reality, that's how your new lifestyle change, then they'll be more accepting. So, okay, did anyone have any insights or like realizations about the material on eating on the go?
Okay, that not eating on the go, but that that BMI, Dr. Roxanne, really. I said, okay then, 27, really. So it helped me to set some goals though.
Good.
And so I read it over and over and over, and I traced it over. Yeah, that's the line. That's where it is. So it helped me to set my goals. So I'm okay with it. It was good information though. Very easy to figure it out when I saw it that way.
Right, and that's an important point, because, you know, all this stuff is just baselines. This isn't, no one's judging here. This is a baseline. Where are you at? It's for you to see where you're at with, like for you, the BMI, and it's not for anyone to feel bad about their baseline, because we're moving forward from that. The point of looking at that and writing it down is now you can see any progress. And so, you know, like, no one should feel bad about what their BMI is. What's great is that you are now, you're in the action phase of making a difference. And that's great. I mean, and you wrote it down and you're looking at it, and that is a huge win.
That's good.
Go ahead, Gretchen.
I have a question on the biomarker chart. I've had recent blood work, so luckily I had the cholesterol stuff to plug in. What is HA1C and CRP? I don't know what those are.
Okay, and it's hemoglobin A1C, and a lot of times whenever I do my blood work, I always do like a comprehensive blood work, but also I ask them to do you can just say A1C, and what that is that's the long-term view of your blood sugar. Like, what is your blood sugar doing? Not in a snapshot, because when you do glucose, when you do a fasting test and they draw your glucose, that's what your glucose level is at that moment. But the hemoglobin A1C is what is your blood sugar doing for the last 3 months. And a good value is like 5.5. So, because once it's 5.9, now you're pre-diabetic or diabetic. So they don't, a lot of doctors, if you have diabetes, they will use that to monitor your progress. But that's an important thing for everyone to ask their doctors to do.
Go back on that. Once you hit what? You're diabetic?
Yeah, if you're about 5.9, you're pre-diabetic, diabetic. 6.0, you're definitely diabetic. And so the CRP is C-reactive protein. I like to get my C-reactive protein done because that shows the amount of inflammation that I have. Yeah, so there's chronic inflamed people, their C-reactive protein is going to be elevated. It's also elevated in heart disease and other things, but I look at that number just to make sure that in the interim of everything that I don't have too much inflammation. And it should be 1.0 or less. So if you're at 3.0 or 5.0 or on and on and on, that means that you are inflamed. So those are just really good biomarkers to see, is my blood sugar okay? Is my inflammation okay? Because all disease starts with inflammation. And then of course, your heart rate, your diastolic, your systolic, blood pressure numbers are important as well. Because as you start losing weight, you're going to see the diastolic decrease, which is good. That's the one you want below 80. Kristen, were you going to say something? No? Okay. All right. So any other things that were, that you learned or you didn't know? I can't believe anyone hasn't said, I didn't know that I didn't have to open my menu when I went into the restaurant. That should be the biggest thing, because everyone, right when they get a menu, everyone's opening and looking at it. So that is the biggest part. Yes, Kristen.
Well, I will say too, like, I know this is not the greatest thing, but when I go to Mexican, I have my drink, but I don't order off the menu. I order a la carte. Like, I'll get like a taco de pastor, and I got, like, last time I got 2 of them, and my cheat night, I had my margarita, but then I had 2 of those, which basically it's a tortilla with chicken in it, grilled chicken, and all I ate is just the chicken out of it, because I'm okay without the tortilla, because I know I'm drinking my enjoyment.
Yeah, that's awesome. That would be something I would do. Mexican, a lot of times I like ceviche, and I also like their shrimp cocktail. I do that a lot. Yeah. Awesome.
So like, it doesn't have an a la carte menu, but you can just say, hey, I want one of these, but I want it a la carte, because I'm not big on the rice and beans either. And I don't like all the extra salsa stuff. I'm like really picky. So, but yeah.
Yes. So Grace makes a good point. A lot of people haven't left the house because COVID, so they're not going into restaurants. So, but when we can, these are, because really I see a lot of people do well until they start traveling or they start eating out, and that's when, the wheels fall off their bus. So you just need to have a strategy and a mindset change. It's doable. I still think I could, if I had to eat every meal out, I still think I could lose weight and stay lean eating out, because I have a strategy and a mindset in place to do that. And that's the importance of this, because when you're hungry and you go to a restaurant, you open that menu and you see chicken fried steak and stuff and fried chicken, you're hungry. So that sounds good. And sometimes you just give into that. But if you already have the mindset and you have a goal and a strategy to follow, that's not going to bother you at all. And it will help your willpower too, if you have a strategy. Yes, Krista.
You're unmuted.
Muted.
So,
Unmute.
When we go out to eat, you know, John will help me, and I actually don't get offended by this, but he will, you know, after a minute, because you know, I had a gastric bypass. I was over 300 pounds for a long time, and that absent-minded hand to mouth is still very much there in certain situations, like the chip basket. And
Right.
so he will just, as we're talking, kindly, slowly pull it away. He won't say anything. He won't draw attention to it. And I'm like, thank you. I needed that, you know? And so
Yeah, no,
if you
that's
have that
good.
support system, yeah.
Well, and one of the things that I'll say, and it took me a very long time to have this mindset, is it's okay to order off the menu, away
yeah.
from the menu, I mean. Like, order things are not on the menu. Because you go into these restaurants, and I used to be a server. When I was young, when I was in college, I was a server. And so I hated when people would order not something on the menu. It drove me insane. But it's really the norm these days. Like, it's not that big of a deal to walk into a restaurant and say, I'd like a piece of meat with a vegetable with nothing on it. Can you do that? And they just nod their head and say, yeah, no problem. It'll cost you $5 extra. Okay. Whatever that looks like, right? But it's okay to order something is not on the menu. And that's a mindset of its own, depending on how you were raised, and what that looks like. And, you know, eating everything on your plate, that's a whole nother mindset, right? So
Right.
when I order not on the menu, whatever the piece of meat is and the vegetable, I also ask them to bring a to-go container right away, because I know that I'm only going to eat half of what's on my plate. And I just,
No, that,
yeah.
no, and that's a really good point, because that's true. And I do the same thing, because even if they bring me 8 ounces, I'm still only going to eat 4 ounces. I'm not going to say, well, I'm eating out. You know, so, and the other thing people think is, well, I'm not going to go right home. So I have a habit of, when I go to eat, if I know I'm going to go to eat, I have a collapsible little cooler that I have one of those cool things that I just throw in there. So when I have my to-go thing, I can just throw it in there, zip it up, and go run my errands, and it's going to be fine. So again, it's that anticipate all stuff, have the mindset and the strategy to succeed. I mean, that's a real important thing. And so now the other thing that I want y'all to write this down, just because we're going to talk about this next time. I want y'all to start, when you wake up every morning, checking what your resting heart rate is. And do you know what that means? So you can do it with your watch. I mean, some people even have but like right when you get out of bed, even if you just check your pulse. There's an easy way to check your pulse. Once you feel your pulse, go to 6 seconds. So watch your watch, and after, you know, count, like go right when you decide to start, for 6 seconds, count. And after the 6 seconds are over, like say if mine was 12 and 6 seconds, it was at 12, then I know that 120 was my heart rate. You multiply by 10, because you know what, there's 60 seconds in a minute. So if I only do 6 seconds, in order to get 60 seconds, you just multiply that by 10. So that's probably the easiest way. You can sit there and hold that, but what happens is, for me, after 30 seconds, something distracts me and I'm like, oh crap, I got to start over. So 6 seconds is a good amount of time. And then you just add, you know, a 0 to however much. And so right when you get up, do that. And I want you to start documenting that, because that's going to be important in the next things that we're talking about. And then some people have Fitbits, Apple Watches, stuff like that, that you use all the time. You can look at that as well. You might have a certain app, but I think the most accurate one is for you to actually feel your pulse, count how many beats you feel in the 6 seconds, and then add a 0 to that. So just make note of that, because we're talking about exercise next time. You're going to be seeing that stuff, and that's why that's going to be an important part of it. Okay, so does anyone else have any questions about eating on the go or eating at restaurants? And this is all the same too, with whether you're in an airport, whether you're in a hotel, whether you're, you know, fast food, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Mindset, strategy, anticipate all obstacles, and have solutions to all obstacles before you get there. A lot of times I travel with my food. You can go on, and now I will have, I'll have a Ziploc bag with I have a carrier, and I have a Ziploc bag of ice when I check in or go through the, where you have to check in all your stuff on that little thing, I will throw the ice out and then go through the check through. And then when I get on the other side, I go to the food court and I hand them my Ziploc bag and I said, hey, can I have some ice? And sometimes they look at me weird. I'll say, my wrist hurts. I'm not lying, because usually my wrist does hurt. And then I just put the ice back in my little cooler and then I get on the plane, so it keeps it cool. So for those of you who, get on an airplane, you'll think it's impossible. They will let you take food as long as it's not liquid. I've taken egg whites and oatmeal and chicken and green beans and rice. I've taken a lot of stuff on an airplane. And as long as there's no liquid on it, they've opened it up and said, oh, that smells good, and then closed it. Or if it's eggs, oh, that stinks, whatever. But they allow me to carry it on. So, and then if I'm going to be in a car for a long time, I have a little ice chest that I just throw all my little meals in it and close it. And then if I need new ice, I can stop at a gas station, or if I need to heat something up, I can go in a gas station and just throw it in the microwave. I mean, there's so many ways to still eat well, while you're on the go. Because a lot of that fast food stuff, when you're going, like even to Dallas, like you stop at this, they taste terrible. Like the food is just terrible. I mean, so those are just some other options. Okay, any last questions? I got about a couple more minutes with y'all before Teresa takes it away. How long have you lived this way, Roxanne? That's a question. Okay, I actually, when I was young, I was heavy, and I tried every single diet, and I never could lose weight. And could we talk about this? And I felt, I mean, there were times where I didn't even want to go to family reunions or anything because I felt so fat. And so I studied, and I guess this probably started in my 20s or maybe 21. I started studying metabolism, and I tried all these different diets. And what ended up happening was through all that research, I learned this, that if I eat frequently and eat low glycemic index foods, that is the way for I'm supposed to be obese. I did a genetic test. My obesity score is really, really high. I have diabetes all in my family. And most of y'all know my brother died at 53 of a heart attack. He was obese, and we have the same build. So that was the reason, I guess it started at 21 where I started experimenting. And then when I do cheat, I feel terrible. So I'm not like, I used to love sweets. I have, like when I was a kid, I had all these shirts that said chocoholic. And I mean, I love sweets. I would wake up and eat ice cream. And then at lunch, I would eat those little, I don't know what they're called. They're chocolate coated with peanut butter stuff in it, and they crunch. I don't know what they're called, but I would eat that with a little soft serve ice cream. I mean, that's all I ate was sweets all day long. So once I changed my palate, eating sweets is just too much. So I had to go through a big curve of to change my eating habits. And now at 54, my physique is much better than when I was like 15, 16, 17. 21 or something like that. I did my first show, so I got lean. So after that point, I was hooked. So that's my story about how long I lived this way.
So Roxanne, those two tests, can you order the A1C and the CRP?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll get with you later on that.
Okay. So any other questions? Great job, Dr. Roxanne. Thank you. I'm reading the stuff that's coming up. So.
Hey, y'all.
Okay.
Okay, so did you see on Facebook that Dr. Roxanne is going to Vegas in September to compete in a national ninja competition? How cool is that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Very
I am.
cool. Awesome.
It is super exciting, Roxanne.
Thank you. No, and we talked about this, I think too. I hate to exercise. I have to have a competition in order to motivate me to exercise. If I don't, like, I don't know how you guys do it. You just get up and exercise with nothing. I mean, I have to, because I don't want to. I get up in the morning and I'm like, oh no. Or at night, I'm like, oh, I'm tired. But if I have a competition, I'm like, yes, I'm tired. But you know what? I'm going to get my butt kicked if I don't go train. So I have to have that little carrot in front of me to make me exercise. So I really don't like to exercise. But after I exercise, I feel great. It's just getting me to that point. And then when I have pressure because there's a competition, that helps me, motivates me. So sign up for a 5K, even if it's a walk. Do something to get you motivated.
Okay, some of us are not doing a 5K, Dr. Roxanne. I'm just saying.
That's 3 miles. That's 3 miles. We'll do it to group. We'll hold hands, kumbaya, across the finish line all together.
can't even walk 3 miles, but I'll go to the gym. Okay? Just saying. Oh, all right, you guys. So let's
Yes,
pivot.
margaritas. Every mile you get a slam of margarita, Kristen. If that's what will get you need to do that 5K, I will organize that.
We'll organize that. I love it. I love it. You guys are awesome. One of the things that stuck with me, and we're going to pivot to business, but something you said last week, Roxanne, really, really stuck with me. And I just want to say it again here for those who didn't hear it, or maybe it didn't stick with them. A woman's body generally can only absorb about 300 calories at a time. And as I sit with portions of food and as I pack my lunches or order dinner or whatever, that has not left my brain. 300 calories. That if that doesn't help you figure out your portions and what you should put in the to-go box when you're out eating, I don't know what will. Like that was huge to me. I see Gretchen. Yeah.
No. You know what? The answer is for guys, women in general, because we have different hormones, our body responds to carbs different. I say women can do 300 to 350, regardless of how big, small, tall, whatever. Because women, even that type, can only have so much muscle mass. Men, on the other hand, can do about 450 calories per one, about 100 more calories. I don't know if any of you ever walked like a mile and then you see you didn't even burn 100 calories. So that's why, you're pretty much, it's that amount.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and I know we're not going to talk about it for a couple of weeks, Roxanne, but just mentioning the scale is not the answer, right? As people are really talking about losing weight, because even over the last, so we're in BETA2 and I've been exercising since we started BETA1. I haven't lost any weight, but when I measure, I can see a difference, right? Because I'm putting muscle on, so that weighs more on the scale than the fat that I'm losing, but I can see it, right, as I use the tape measure. So don't obsess too much, I would say.
That's exactly right. That's an important point. We just go by your measurements. I just want your waist to get smaller. I don't care about the scale getting less.
All right, so let's pivot to business. This week, hopefully, if you're keeping up, you were looking at putting your strategic plan together. And if you're more interested in the exercise of things, side of things, or the health side of things, putting a strategic plan in place for your health is also a possibility, right? Not just for your business. So the things that you should have seen, the presentation, also, what else is in there? Hold on, I'm looking. Oh, the what is your why? And your clarity worksheet, as well as the focus worksheet. Does anybody have any insights from this week on the business side?
The golden circle was everything. So I was working through my work, and I had been wondering how I was going to advertise a thing. And when I finished the video, it was perfect. I'm going to go from the inside out. I'm going to talk about my why first. And it just been totally different. And I think I had better results because I did name my why and then talked about my how and what. So that was a paradigm shift for me. That was really good.
Great. Gretchen?
So something Neely said last week really has stuck to me and made me reevaluate some of the ways I look at my business. And it was, Neely, do you remember what you said? The comparison, something about comparison steals your joy.
Comparison
right?
is joy.
Yeah, it's a thief. Yes. And that's like, why am I planning to do this? Is it because of how I compare to someone else, or am I doing it for me? And that just really spoke to me. Thanks, Neely.
So, yeah.
And I was going to say this. Go ahead. Go ahead, Sylvia.
I caught a lot of things. That one was a very important one, but also, you know, really getting at the core of what are my values? Why am I doing this? What is it? You know, everybody always says, oh, I do it for my family and I do it for this and it. And I thought that's really not a value. What is your value? What is your what are you thinking of? Why are you doing this? So it really was a great exercise for me. I got a lot out of it. And I love the idea of working backwards, you know, from the finish down to now, you know, 3 years from now to now. What is the end goal, but what are you doing today? And that really helped me focus tremendously. It was, but the video was a mind blower. I was just like, what? I even stopped my husband. I was like, you need to see this. And when he gave the example of Apple, made total sense. It made total sense. And I was like, I get it now. I understand now. So watch out.
I love it. Well, and it is important to realize your values and why you're in your business. Number one, it will help you connect and have better relationships. And two, once you realize your why and your values, you can connect to people that want to buy your product and service, right? These are all building blocks. So when we start talking about customers in 2 weeks, we're going to start focusing on who is it that you want to work with? Because guess what? You don't have to work with anyone, everyone, someone. The people who share your values will be attracted to you. And you can, and they will buy your product and service all day long, right? Go ahead, Kristen.
So I'm kind of like on the same, like with Sylvia, when I moved to Texas from Virginia, it was, I couldn't get a job. So I started my own business. That was a why, but kind of like with what Sylvia said, I was looking through and it's like, you know, going through all the vision questions and what would your ideal and all those different things. It was helpful to kind of ask myself those questions to kind of fine tune, you know, why. I mean, everybody, we're in business because we want to make money. We want to support our families. We want a good lifestyle. We want the flexibility. I mean, those are just kind of standard things. I mean, that's why we start businesses, but there's, you know, a passion and a fire underneath us that creates additional value. And based like Sylvia was saying, it's, you know, because we want to make money is not really a value, you know, and you know, we don't want to better our life is not necessarily a value. But so that was a kind of, I like those questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kristen. Roxanne?
Yeah, and I just want to add to that because that was something that was real important. I mean, I guess, okay, so for what I do, my job, everyone needs it because everyone wants to have more energy and lose weight and be healthy, right? But where I was missing the boat is that I don't need to focus on telling everyone who needs it. I need to be focusing on the people who believe that, like I believe, that we all want to, and that's where I was missing the boat because they have to have my same belief. Like when as I age, I want to have energy and feel good, and other people, if they don't understand, and then again, I went through that, I was overweight and I couldn't lose weight. And so I was depressed and I, you know, thought, man, I'm just going to be fat for the rest of my life. And this is just because it's my genetics. And so no matter, and I had willpower and I was motivated, but I still wasn't losing weight. And so then when I found the answer, I need to be reaching out to those same people who have tried stuff and failed because they just can't, it's not a lifestyle they can attain for the rest of their life. So that needs to be my focus. And that was something new for me because I'm like, what? Everyone needs to feel better. Everyone wants, but it's more so that they need to have the same belief that as we age, we want to have energy and feel good. So when we retire, we can spend time with our family. And so I started focusing on that. And then, I mean, my business really started increasing.
Awesome. Anybody else?
I think my greatest challenge from that was, and it's one that I have been working on since Sunday, off and on, is what is my scoring system? Yeah, that one has required some thought and some creativity. So that was a really great challenge for me, and I'm still kind of working on that. The other thing too, you guys talked last week about, recognizing what is your weak part. And so I had a meeting this morning with the finance person. I'm getting my numbers right. I had a meeting before this one, getting those things lined out and getting some ideas about how to set some things up so it can kind of work more automatic for me. And they're kind of going to be my overhead go-to person if I get in trouble or whatever. But I feel better about that already. I haven't even done anything, and I feel lighter that I've gone somewhere and got some help with it, So that was great too, guys. Thank you.
That's good. That's your frog.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes the thing that we're not thinking about the most weighs the heaviest because we're really thinking about it the most, right?
Yes.
And it is, especially as a business owner, most of us looking, except for Robert, those of us who are in business here, except for Robert, maybe we're not so good at numbers, right? Because that's not what we got in business to do. We didn't get in business to deal with numbers. We get into business because we're passionate about something, or because we're good at something, or because we like something. So when it comes to numbers, and oh, by the way, that is the next lesson, is talking about numbers. We should know something about it so that we can have intelligent conversations with our bookkeepers and our CPAs. I'm not saying that you need to do it. I'm saying you need to know something about it, right? And then outsource it. Because if we spend a whole bunch of time trying to do that, how can we be good or be great or amazing or awesome at the things that we do best?
Good.
Thank you for sharing. Welcome to the party, Robert. All right. Anybody have any challenges that they're dealing with right now on the business side? Kathy, go ahead.
So I went back to last week because there was a couple things I'd left blank, and I wanted to be thorough because I went through the lesson on goals, and I'm like, oh yeah, goals, I'm gonna do that. Yeah, okay, great, goals. And then I started going into it and starting from like immediately where question 4, what have you always wanted to do in your life been afraid to attempt? And so I really tried to dig in deep, and that's where I came across that article of fear of success, because and this is twofold. 1, I have a fear of success. 2, I've always told myself that I am a type B personality, that I am, I'm one of the people that kind of hangs back. I've had people my whole life telling me that I am an overachiever, and I don't believe them. And I'm like, that's great that you see that. You're only seeing one side of me. You don't know the whole story. I have a serious case of imposter syndrome. So no matter what I achieve, no matter what I accomplish, I'm always like, man, wait till they figure out that I'm a fraud. It doesn't matter what it is. Like when it comes to like listing out what are your greatest things, what gives you a sense of accomplishment and meaning, that is blank. Because I can't honestly think of anything that I could write there that I wouldn't go, Like I have a real problem with that. And I think that's my biggest hurdle, is trying and failing, or trying and not getting what I wanted out of it, or something. Like there's something I need to work through there. So I want to get this nailed down before I move on and do the rest of it. But that's what I've been, as I'm trying to like go through all my goals this week and like get everything done on paper and in a spreadsheet and like get it all organized and get it fleshed out. And I'm doing a lot of research into like, what are your core values? I'm like, the heck is a core value? So I had to go Google core values and like look at like lists of core values. And I'm like, yeah, that's okay. So I started making like all this like crazy list of stuff and then grouping them together and saying, okay, well, that's how I want others to see me. That's how I relate to others. That's how I want to see myself. Okay. So I started kind of organizing that. But yeah, that's been an eye opener, because I've always lived in my sister's shadow. I have an older sister. She's 4 years older. She's a doctor. She's incredibly successful. She has her own practice. She's a bodybuilder. She has, from my point of view, never made a mistake. She's been with the same guy since she was 16 years old. Like, she has never failed from my point of view. So my life and her life have been very different. And all through, like, as a young child going through elementary school, she went first. And so when I came through, they're like, oh, you're Letty's sister. You're going to be very impressive. Like, it was already like the tone was set. And that's been some big shoes to fill. So getting to go to a different school system, a different school district where they didn't know her was a blessing, because it's been hard to live in her shadow. And I have to remind myself that even though I've been on a different path, and even though I haven't done everything she's done, and even though I feel like if I had done things differently, I could have, I still have to say, okay, but I'm not in a bad place. Like, this is okay. Like, I still have done something. Even if I can't say, I've done a lot and I've accomplished a lot, even if I'm not ready to say that, if I'm not ready to use that language with myself, I can still say, this is okay. I'm not behind. She hasn't set, like, this is the blueprint and you have to follow. It's like, that's okay. I don't have to do things the way she's done it. So that's been a real eye opener to me, because I mean, even in high school, my sister was so confused by my anxiety. She's like, well, why can't you just do it? Why don't you just do it? Why aren't you going to college? Why aren't you? I don't understand. Because she doesn't have that. And I'm like, I can't. I'm paralyzed by fear. Like, that's, I don't know how I sit down to a project and I just shut down. Like, I can't do this. And she's like, well, why don't you just start? And I'm like, so
Yeah,
we've always had that.
Kathy, thank you for being so vulnerable on this call. That's amazing. You're amazing. And you know what? The best advice that I could give you, if I were to give advice, because coaches don't give advice, just be you. We all think you're amazing. Just be you. You're an engineer. You own your own business. You've chosen your own path. You be you, and start to believe it, right, in your own time. Because remember, I think it was in the first week's lessons, that the self-talk, right, is what feeds our feelings, which is going to feed our actions and then our results. So you be you. And when you're ready, you start telling yourself how amazing you are, because we all think you are. And thank you for being vulnerable. That was awesome. Absolutely.
And I can add to that, Kathy, because I feel the same way about, I'm just like you. But you know what I always think to myself, and maybe just because I'm older, and as you get older, I guess you don't care. That's when you start, getting crazy and being mean to people.
There you go.
But this is what I tell myself all the time. I am perfectly me. And that's what you got to say. Whatever I do, you know what? It's me, and I do me perfectly. I don't have to worry about it. That's what helps me all the time. This is me. This is my personality. Whether I have anxiety or whatever I have, I am perfectly me, and that is great. And even though with the many times imperfections are even better than perfect. So even with the imperfections I have, I just learned to say, this is me, and I'm going to try to be nice and be the perfect me that I can be. And you are that, because I would never known until you said that. About you, because to me, you seem like, with everyone's eyes, everyone thinks, wow, everyone has it all together. And then everyone realizes we all of us have our insecurities, so it's everywhere. But as you get older, you just don't care. And I don't know why that happens, because you're just like, I don't care.
Just saying.
I'm perfectly flawed.
It is getting better as I get older, oddly. Once I hit 40, I was like,
right.
It's like things stop mattering. They stop, a lot of insecurities were just suddenly gone overnight. Very strange.
Wait till you're in your 50s. It's even better. You're like,
life begins at 50. Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have a challenge? Go ahead, Christina.
Well, yesterday when I was reading through it, it was just a flashback, like Dr. Roxanne said. I had done this work and I looked at my notes that I had taken past years, except I had used my energy with the wrong people. And so it was like self-discovery yesterday, just accepting responsibility and that I am where I am. And I it was very emotional for me because I found my purpose and I had not been working it, which I want to develop a business based on helping human trafficking. So it was, I mean, I was crying that I had neglected that call in my life. So last night, just going through your reading and going back to my old notes on my goals and values, it just sparked something in me. Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Yay!
Thank you for sharing. That is beautiful. Thank you very much. And by the way, my husband sits on a board for a counseling business that is in the, they do counseling for women that have been in that space. So you and I should connect because I would love to connect you with that business. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Grace.
I mean, I get where everybody's coming from. I'm the oldest. I'm always struggling with my parents because they have special expectations. But as a woman, there are expectations that they have as us because we're women. We're not men. We do things a certain way. We need to think a certain way. And I find this as I'm trying to get to a point where I have a more virtual business, that I fall in the trap of trying to compare myself. I see what others do, and then my mind says, oh, you need to mimic them because they're successful. And in that, you forget your own authenticity. And by losing that, you lose you and you lose your own path on where you're going. I'm a very stubborn woman, and everybody who knows that, you know, it's what it is, and I'm fine with that. But I need to pay more attention to who I am and how to develop that to the outer side of the world. It's not just my cocoon. And I think in making things fit me instead of me trying to fit somebody else's mold, it will work, because all the expectation, it's the same thing with weight loss. If you do it for someone else, or you do it for whatever reason, and it's based on validation of others, you will relapse. I relapsed. I lost 100 pounds and I relapsed because people started treating me differently. I had not thought that it would be an ugly way. I thought, you know, they treat me a certain way because I'm big. And then when I'm skinny, they'll treat me better. That's not true. People will treat you the way they want to treat you, no matter what you look like, no matter how smart you are, no matter how pretty or ugly you are, they're going to do whatever they feel like doing. And that's something that I'm still struggling with, because it's hard to be in a place where you're like, you know yourself, you know what your self-worth is, you know what your business worth is, but why don't others see it that way? And I think the translation of getting others to see it my way, it's the hard point. And I think that's the point that keeps us from fully clicking and running with it. And I'm trying to find out how to make it click, and I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you, Grace.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Neely.
So sometimes when you look at people, it's the views that you have internally. So you have to recognize, I think, that how you see people is probably how you see yourself. So the way that you think that they're looking at you is the way that you're looking at them. And I'm not saying that you are, but just being aware of how we see the world is our perspective. And so seeing people treat us differently is almost like I have to see them treating me differently. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No?
Yes.
So I'll tell you an example. Like my oldest daughter and I have a lot of issues with the way our relationship is. And I only saw the way that she treated me in a bad way. I never saw her as treating me in a good way. And so I had to stop focusing on the way she was treating me and start seeing the good things she was doing so I could get more of that. So it's magnifying what you want in your life to come to you. You have to see things from that perspective. So stop seeing the bad that's going around. Stop seeing the people that are treating you badly. Start focusing your energy and your attention on the things that you want, the types of people you want in your presence. You know, it's like you attract the things that you are. And Grace, like, you have an amazing personality. You're like so vibrant, and you know, you're a very like I want to be friends with her because she's like lives out loud. That's the type of personality you are. Kathy, you're a freaking overachiever. And I don't even know how you see yourself the way that it's not the way we see you, because you're like amazing. But it's just seeing from that perspective of, okay, I'm going to take the words that somebody says that's great, and I'm going to try to see their way right now. Just, I don't know if that helps her, but just.
And Grace, I will say this because I actually know you,
Yeah,
is
I know.
that you who you are is awesome. Like you just being you, you care, you go way beyond, you do so much that other people don't do. And you really care. Like you will sit there and figure something out and you take it on. Like you're so heartfelt with that stuff that you expressing that to people and focus on that is what makes you different than anyone else, especially attorneys, because most attorneys are negative because they see negative. And you, even in negative stuff, when we've had conversations, you have so much love and so much want to help people that's what you need to focus on. That's your niche. You loving, and you want what's right. You don't, even if someone's wrong, if I'm wrong about something, you'll say, oh, no, no, no. And that's what people want. That is what you need to captivate on, because that is different than anything else out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would like to say this, and we've got 4 minutes left, and I don't mean to take over the call, but I'm going to do it anyway. And Robert, open your ears as wide as you can. You guys, this is why Roxanne and I are doing this. We are bringing groups, big groups of women together, strong women together, so that we can lift each other up, so that we can challenge each other, so that we can be there for each other, so that we can be vulnerable and have these kinds of conversations, because we don't do that normally. And Grace, when you first started talking, you were talking about women, right? We don't always give ourselves the credit that we should, because we have to be perfect in every aspect of our lives. That's what we think as women. We have to be perfect moms, perfect wives, perfect sisters, perfect whatever you want to call it. And we don't. You know what? We need to celebrate who we are and be the best. What did you say, Roxanne? Be the best me? Be the perfect me? That's what we need to do. And that's why we have this community of women here. And Robert, thank you for participating with us. We love you. That's why we have us here. And Robert being an outside voice saying, you guys are all freaking amazing. Be you, right? I see him saying that. Women in general are not supporting other women in this kind of fashion, and we should, because we're all amazing at being who we are. And we're going to be like amazing business owners together, right? And have amazing health together and have fun and go have a margarita and run a 20 kilometer something or another, whatever that looks like. Not my specialty, obviously. All right. I'm not, because we only have 2 minutes left, I'm not going to throw the slide up on the screen, but our next group of topics are going to be looking at your metrics inside your business. If you're not measuring, you have no idea if you can celebrate successes, because you don't know. And if you're only looking at your numbers once a year when you send them to the CPA, that's a problem. And then Roxanne is going to show us how to exercise. I'm super stoked about that, you guys. So there are a lot of videos in the next section. Don't be afraid. It's all good. Roxanne's actually doing some demonstrations on exercises, and it will help you get on track. And don't forget to monitor your resting heart rate, because I know Roxanne's going to start bugging you about it. All right, Roxanne, parting words. We've got a minute left.
Nope. Just y'all all are wonderful, great. And also, that one thing about the videos is I just tell you what to do. You don't have to do as many rounds that I have. If you're a beginner, just do what I say one time. You know, that's it. You don't have to do the whole video thing. So if I say do 5 rounds, just do 1 if you're a beginner. And as time goes on, you can increase. Don't be scared of it. It's stuff you can do at your house.
You guys are all awesome and amazing. Go be you and be the best you that you can be. And we'll see you next week. And by the way, if you need help, Roxanne and I are here. Schedule a call. All right?
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.